welcome back to Caps Hockey Review. Back with you again. 2 more games to discuss. Finishing out the homestand. Big win, a loss last night. Caps Hockey Review. Let's break it down. Here we go. And off we go. It's Caps Hockey Review, and we are underway yet again. 2 big games to break down. We're going to go kind of quick strike through Anaheim and kind of quick through Pittsburgh. I have a few other things I would like to discuss. We're going to spend a little more time on Pittsburgh. But for the Caps, Anaheim, last time you're going to see them this season. They've already played them on the West Coast, an OT loss in Anaheim. But for the Caps, I mean, you're wrapping up the homestand with these 2 games. So you want to finish on a good note. You're going to hit the road and go to Buffalo. Then you're going to come right back on Monday and play against the Kings. But you always want to win on home ice. That's obvious. You want to win every game you play. But those home ice wins are huge. The mystique about playing on home ice in the NHL, especially in the playoffs, you have teams who have a reputation for having a really good crowd and a really kind of almost hostile atmosphere for opposing teams. And by winning more home games, getting the fans more into it, you kind of contribute to that a little bit. It's, there's a lot more at stake, and there's a lot more that plays into winning and losing playoff games than whether you're playing on home ice or not, but it can sometimes be an edge. Anyway, for the Caps, they need to keep winning. They they hit a bit of a rough patch. That Florida game was ugly. It was horrible. That Chicago game, they probably deserved to win that one. Just didn't quite work out. So, getting back to the winning ways a little bit, though. Wins against Columbus. They get this win against Anaheim, so kind of righting the ship a little bit. They would get a win past regulation in this thing. Up to this point, the Caps were 0-6 in attempts at overtime or shootout this season. So, huge to get off the schneid in the shootout, getting a big win. Daniel Sprong would score a goal in the shootout. Ovi Carlson would wrap it up. Really good things for the Caps here. This kind of game is, we saw this against Pittsburgh too. Just back and forth. Chances galore. I know Laviolette would like to see that clean up, eliminating some of those chances against, but with the style he likes to play, he likes to get everybody involved. He likes to get 5 guys active on the rush. He likes to make the defense involved in the offense, and that's great. But sometimes you get burned. It really is a double-edged sword, and sometimes you end up going for that big swing, that kill, and you end up cutting yourself in the process. So, we would see that. Just a lot of back and forth play. Samsonov played really well. John Gibson in net for the Ducks. He always plays really well. Sammy is starting to separate himself. I'm gonna jump off here a little bit, and I'll kind of get back into Anaheim here in a second. Samsonov, we have seen him play, I'm going to say probably 7 of the last 8. He has, I think, really separated himself. He's building up that save percentage. He hasn't finished a game under 900 in this kind of stretch he's on. He's only lost, with Pittsburgh, he's 11-2-1 win-loss record on the season. So he's been really, really good for the Caps all season. And I think he's starting to separate himself. Now, every time I said this about Vanacek, something happens. Have an off game, or, Vanacek's going to get the start on Saturday night against Buffalo and get a shutout and kind of put his hat back in the ring and say, all right, I'm still here. You didn't forget about me, did you? So we'll see what happens. To have this continue, I've talked about it before, to have 2 goalies playing really well, that's not really a problem. Come playoff time, you'll have to make a choice, but that's still a ways off, so we're not really going to worry too much about it right now. The interesting thing for the Caps, Recalling Zach Fucale, goaltender Zach Fucale from AHL Hershey on Friday in preparation for the back-to-back. I don't know if this is a sitch where they're going to sit somebody out of practice. Maybe you need an extra goalie for practice. Who knows? This is interesting, but you usually don't have morning skates on back-to-back days. So, interesting decision. No word of injury. Obviously, Samsonov played on Friday night, so, obviously he's not hurt. Vanacek, no news about an injury there, so that's really, really curious. Maybe just precautionary. Who knows? Weird things have happened. This team's been snake bit by injuries all year, so maybe just getting ahead of it. Who knows at this point? So, getting back to Anaheim. I'm getting too far ahead of the story here. Getting back to Anaheim, the Caps get a huge win. Tom Wilson would get the Caps started the right way. Goal in the first period lead. That is what the Caps do best. I shouldn't say it's what they do best. That's when they play best. They get that early lead. They're such a better team playing from ahead than from behind. So that second period, though, was absolutely wild. Chances galore and plenty of goals. Anaheim would answer. Carl Hagelin would get the Caps that 2-1 lead. Hagelin, his first of the season. This guy does so many important things every single night. From penalty kill to those big grind minutes, blocking shots, making those big defensive plays. He's quick as a hiccup. Just hasn't quite bounced his way, but it's so great to see him finally get that goal. He's, like I said, he's one of the hardest working guys on the ice every night, and you love to see those guys get rewarded with goals. So, great job by him. That fourth line's contributed offensively on top of doing their usual stuff this season. So that fourth line's doing great things, and I hope they keep her going. The Caps, you'd give up 2 quick ones to Anaheim, you're down, but then John Carlson. He has really, he had a quiet start to the year, but he's really, really ramping it up these last couple weeks to almost 2 months now. For Carly, getting a big goal at the end of the second period. Last minute goal. Those kind of goals are always huge. It's always the last minute of a period or the first minute of a period. These opportunities to score in those moments that you capitalize on, they can be such a huge advantage. And they can be such a lift or, just lift the team up a little bit. And that's what they do. It's deflating to give up a goal in first or last minute, and it's a huge boost to your team if you can do it. So for the boys, huge job by Carlson getting it tied. You don't want to go down. You do not want to go to the third period down a goal. You just don't. So no goals in the third. As I said, the Caps would get her done in the shootout, getting that win. Now, jumping ahead to Friday. Pittsburgh Penguins in town for the second time this season. Caps mopped the Penguins the first time they visited Capital One Arena. But different Penguins team now. Missing Jake Gensel. Jake Gensel has arguably been the hottest player in the NHL these last couple weeks. He's been on fire for the Penguins. He is missing in this game. But you have Crosby back. It wasn't Crosby from that first Caps-Pens game. He was off the wrist surgery recently. He was just off COVID protocol. This is a different Sidney Crosby. This is the true Sidney Crosby, the fresh Sidney Crosby. Coming into this game, he's riding a 6-game point streak. That is always cause for concern for any team. This guy seems to put up points every night, but when he gets on these streaks, he's just so deadly. So for the Caps, you need a big win here, and it didn't come. The first period was so much fun. It was such an entertaining game, just back and forth. The Caps are kind of getting into more of these games where it's back and forth, and I know as a fan of the Capitals, I would like to see that stop a little bit. I would like to see them be able to clamp down defensively a little bit more and eliminate some of those chances coming the other way. But the style they play, like I talked about, they like to get everybody involved on offense, and sometimes that hurts you going the other way. So For the Caps, Penguins, it's always entertaining, and the chances in this first period were just insane. So the Caps, I've talked about turning points in a game. I think in this one, the Caps had some missed opportunities in that first period. They had some great chances. It just didn't quite bounce their way. You can do all the right things sometimes, and it just doesn't quite go your way. So, and I think that's what happened here. And, toward the end of the period, the Penguins get a goal from Danton Heinen, and it's just kind of like, man, they do all these great things, and they're doing everything right, and the Penguins go the other way and score. And it always seems like it happens when they play the Penguins. The Caps can be doing really, really well, doing the right things, and then the Penguins get a goal. And then that second period, same deal. I mean, I wouldn't say the Caps played bad in this game. They had some moments that were tough. Certainly that second period, giving up those 2 goals kind of quick in the middle of the period, that's tough. You're down 3-0 going to the third period. That's a heck of a hole. I mean, we've seen teams like Florida crawl out of those. Obviously, they did it against Caps, but they've done it against other teams too. So for the Caps, I mean, it's not an insurmountable lead, but they don't score until late. I mean, get a goal from Kuznetsov. I shouldn't say late. It was close to the middle of the period, but get a goal from Kuznetsov, get a late one from Eller. You're down 3-2. You've still got, 2 minutes and some change to go. So they had a chance, and Pittsburgh would seal it with the empty netter. It would, be a moot point. But for the Caps, that's a tough way to end a homestand. I mean, you always want to win against Pittsburgh, and it just didn't quite go their way this time. So, looking ahead, kind of a sour taste after that Penguins game. And I have to circle back here for a sec. The Penguins, in this game, I shouldn't say the Penguins, just in this game, Caps would lose 2 more to injury. This has become a way too familiar discussion. Martin Fehérváry gets elbowed in the head by Brock McGinn. Absolutely, I think a suspendable play. Puck's gone. McGinn has time to pull up, and he puts it right in Fehérváry's head. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Fehérváry plays for Tom Wilson's team, so probably nothing's going to come of it because we know Tom Wilson. I mean, the Caps never seem to get anything like that. I mean, they have opponents deliver questionable hits or something like that. It just never seems like, against the Caps, it's never suspended. And it probably has been. I'm probably just a little bit biased there, but it just doesn't seem like we see that too much. But I think it's not a hockey play. It's one of those that the league's really trying to eliminate. It's an unnecessary hit to an opponent's head. And at this point in the game, no hit to a head is acceptable. It's not necessary. We can talk all day about, where do we draw the line on legal and illegal, and, do we draw the line between necessary and unnecessary? I'm going to say this now. You don't draw that line. You can't sit here and say that, the check's legal, but it's not necessary. No. I mean, do you need to crush somebody coming through the middle of the ice when there's 2 minutes left in a game and you're up 7-0? Probably not, but if it's a legal hit, who cares? If it's a legal hit, you're playing within the rules. So, just interesting. We'll see what comes of it. But this is not a hockey play. This is not a necessary hit. And here I am drawing that line. But it's really not. I mean, the puck's gone. There's no reason to deliver that hit. I mean, if you have to, if you can't pull up, put it through his chest, put it through his shoulder. Don't go up into his head. So we'll see what comes of it. And then finally, Tom Wilson gets tripped up going to the net, high speed, ends up in the back of the net. He skated off under his own power, so hopefully it's nothing significant. But this could bring about really, really big lineup changes for Saturday night. We already have, let's do the math here. We got Leeson, Protas, Malenstein, still 3 irregulars in, with Van Riemsdyk still on COVID protocol as well. We have Irwin in. So maybe we'll see Dennis Cholowski slot in for Faravari if he can't go. Forward-wise, I would guess we'll probably see Mike Scarbosa slot in for Wilson. If he can't go, we'll have to wait and see. That's kind of the crappy thing about these back-to-backs. No morning skate for the most part for most of these teams anymore on back-to-back days, so you just kind of have to wait until, one of the insiders can kind of dig it out and, figure out what's going on. So we'll keep the eyes peeled for that. Unfortunately, I won't give you an update in this, but looking ahead, to end my rambling here, looking ahead, Buffalo Sabres on Saturday night. Now, Buffalo they were kind of a surprise team to start the year. They were doing really well, all things considered, no Jack Eichel. They finally pull off the trade. But they've come back to earth a little bit. I think they're going to end up as a bottom 10, maybe bottom 5 team, and they're starting to kind of trend that direction. So for the Caps, get that win. You're on the second half of a back-to-back, but get that win. Go to Buffalo, get a win, get the boys feeling better. And then, coming back on Monday night, we got LA. The Western teams, Anaheim has made their visit. LA is making their visit to Capital One Arena on Monday night. Should be a great one. The Caps shut the Kings out 2-0 in Los Angeles. See how she goes. I mean, this LA team, I think kind of same story as Buffalo. They started the year really, really hot. It was, you have these young guys. That core from the Stanley Cup day is still kind of hanging around a little bit. Jonathan Quick had refound himself. I think also they've kind of come back down to earth a little bit. They're kind of trending downward these last few weeks, and I think same story as the Sabres. I don't think the Kings will be a bottom 5, but I think they will miss the playoffs. So for the Caps, these should be 2 winnable games. I mean, every game's competitive. Every team in the NHL is good. They wouldn't be there if they weren't, but these are 2 games you need to win. You need to get, feeling good again, get that confidence back, and get back to those winning ways. Get the boys feeling good again. We need to see more of the axe and the shield being handed out post-game. We haven't seen enough of it these last 2 weeks or so. So for the boys, it's real simple. Get back in the win column and get there consistently. It's been, a win, a loss, a win, a loss, a win, a loss. So get back to that winning way. Get a win streak together again and get everybody back on track. We're looking for Samsonov to keep the brilliant play coming. He's been so good. I would not pin any of these losses on him. He's been fantastic. He was great, especially in that first period of that Pittsburgh game. He turned away a ton of really good chances. It could have been 3-0 after the first if he hadn't been on his game. So looking for that to continue. We, of course, will see Vitek Vanacek, maybe Zach Fucale tonight against Buffalo. Looking for a big game from one of those two. I mean, Vitek, this is, you're not seeing the net as often. So, I mean, you got to make these rare opportunities count. So if it's Vitek, I would really expect a good game from him to kind of reassert himself in this goalie battle and just, remind the coach, hey, boys, I'm still here. I'm still, very capable goalie for this team. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. If we do have to make any more lineup changes due to injury, I will be back with you to discuss all of it after the LA game. And then look ahead. I apologize. They do not play LA on that second game. I looked at the wrong week on the calendar. They play in Buffalo, and then they'll head to Chicago middle of the week and head to Winnipeg as well. For the Caps, I mean, you got to get a win against Chicago. They kind of stole one in your building. I apologize for my gaffe there. But you got to go to Chicago and get a win. You're on a 3-game road trip. These road trips build camaraderie, like I talked about with the Western Swing. This is not as long of a road trip, but it's still a good opportunity for the boys. So get these wins. I mean, Buffalo should be a winnable game for this team. Chicago, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a battle, but I think this team can find a way to win a game. Hopefully, I will be back with you after the Chicago game, and then we'll head to Winnipeg. That's going to be a big one. The Jets are still a very, very good team. So really exciting games coming up here. Hopefully, one last thing. Hoping to have a Nick Backstrom in the lineup at some point here. Looking to get Dowd back. He should be coming to the end of that COVID protocol here in the next few days. Same with Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Get some of these regulars back in. I talk about it every time, and it's just, we don't get any back and more end up going out. So hopefully we can start to get to what this team is supposed to be and what they're supposed to look like. So big games coming up. I will be back with you to break them all down. And here we go. Big road trip coming. Let's get back to those winning ways. Until next time, go Caps.